Nick, I know you've got a bit of time, mate. You'll be watching. Have my ACL.
Has he used all his fumble tokens up?
He actually couldn't sit down. He was that furious. He was bashing his helmet on the sideline.
I think Dak's going to get eaten alive.
That's one of the toughest mobile quarterbacks in the league, and they just stopped him.
Welcome back to yet another episode of the Early Hours podcast, where the result from the Monday Night Football games has now been revealed. The Lions pipping the Ravens 38-30. This is what Monday Night Football is all about.
Definitely. Absolutely. And it's killer to think, because every blooming team in the NFC North won at the weekend, except for us, it seems, against the Browns. But never mind. Yeah, cover that G, my
Hiding
friend.
the G. No, I'm having it close to my heart. That's exactly what I'm doing. But no, yeah, the Lions coming away with a pretty convincing win, especially going into the Ravens' backyard. And Oliver, you might be some Mystic Meg, because in Monday's episode, you called the Lions to win.
Well, they did just that, didn't they? They did exactly what we sort of previewed. They owned the trenches. They took advantage of a front line that was weaker for the Ravens. They ran the ball for 224 yards across Montgomery and Gibbs, each with 2 touchdowns, so just balled out. And the crazy thing about those trenches, they sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times. That is a mobile quarterback. That's one of the toughest mobile quarterbacks in the league, and they just stopped him.
He's just
Simple as that.
Wow.
It was crazy. Yeah, absolutely wild. Really, really gutsy calls from Dan Campbell. They were going for it on 4th down like they always do. 4th and 2nd, it was at one point really late in the game. And then the following play from that was a 31-yard touchdown with Montgomery. So it just shows that Campbell is absolutely back in his old ways, and it's working for him again.
2 touchdowns apiece for Gibbs and Montgomery. Are the best 1-2 punch duo running back in the league. Are they back for another season?
Said we were overlooking them, didn't I?
Yeah, well, it's still early, isn't it?
We were, and they've suffered a really early defeat to the Packers. Everyone was touting them as the bottom of the division. Oh, they're back. There's regression, and they've just reminded everyone that they're here. I mean, you clearly have something to say about it. It smells you rocking a shirt tonight. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Like I've said before. I said pre-season that I thought that they'd probably struggle and regress a little bit, but week 1 they didn't look great, but since then they've looked, back to the best. And I think we always knew it'd take them a little bit of time to get into their form, but if they're back in form, then they're going to be really tough to beat. And it's going to make it really interesting for the rest of the season, and especially the Packers rematch later in the year, to see who comes out on top of that one.
Definitely. Well, there's no better way to say, look, we're back at full strength than actually beating the Ravens. Smells, obviously you gave the Ravens a nod in Monday's episode. What went wrong for them?
Do you know what? It was a good game. It was a really close game. It was 21-all after the 3rd quarter, I think. And obviously Derrick Henry with the fumble in the 4th quarter. Again, something I mentioned on Monday's episode, that he's fumbled a couple of times now this year, and saw just how unhappy he was afterwards, that he sounds harsh, but probably cost his team the game.
He actually couldn't sit down. He was that furious. He was bashing his helmet on the sideline.
Yeah, look, man,
it's costing them games. It's costing them games. It's as simple as that.
You get it from rookies. You don't get it from Henry. King Henry, Mr. Reliable, just churns in the yards, untouchable. But if he's going to start fumbling the ball, then Lamar's not going to give him the ball as much. And he hasn't got the ball as much as week 1, and he has last year. Just touching on that as well, Lamar Jackson, unbelievable, unreal. Better than Goff last night. I think that's fair to say. But look, Jared Goff had the pieces around him, and I think at the end of the day, that's probably what's going to cost the Ravens this year. It's another 4th quarter collapse after the Bills week 1, and yeah, don't get me wrong, they're a great team. They'll get the playoffs easy, but they're not quite top level at the minute.
They can't seem to finish a game off, can they? That's the thing, and what's scary is you look at them last year and they struggled in those same areas, but this year you're now adding things like Henry fumbling into the mix. They're probably short. They feel a little bit short at receiver still. I don't know. That front line looks weak. It's just not the start they could have hope for, really. I think the saving grace is that the Chiefs are maybe out of contention a little bit more this year for them, so that might buy them a bit of time to find some form, and can never rule the Ravens out, but yeah, that's where they're at, and that's where their season's heading.
Yeah, the fantasy memes at half time were just Zay Flowers zeros across the board. Like, it wasn't a good day at the office for anyone on that sign. But look, Derek, if you're listening, please get better, because you're now in my team, so I could really do with you picking up some points come the rest of the season. Look, moving on, I think it's important to just talk about and reference Monday's episode. James Conner now officially out all season. That is something that nobody wants to see. Like, these guys put themselves on the line, for the great sport of football, and it's not good to see when someone is ruled out, especially with the likes of James Conner.
What a torrid time for him. The last couple of seasons, unbelievable player, has carried that Cardinals team on his back. Is, in my opinion, easily their best player. I think. I really do believe that. I think he's an absolute stud, and it's such a shame. It's a shame for the division. It's a shame for the conference, and it's a shame for the sport. But yeah, our best wishes with him, obviously, and more importantly, a fixture that really favours him coming up this weekend. It's such a shame. He's historically really thrived against Seattle. 407 rushing yards, 224 receiving yards. So he's gone mobile against this team in the past, and 5 total touchdowns in 6 games cannot be understated. So yeah, he'll be missed, but yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, something in the air actually between the Cardinals and the 49ers last week, because Nick Bosa, again, we touched upon him on Monday, but it wasn't confirmed. He's also out for the rest of the season with another ACL.
Obviously, a really costly evening for both teams. Such a shame for Nick. Started really, really well, and we saw it this year with Bryce Huff and a couple of the rookies, where he's actually had someone on the other end that's enabled him to actually sort of get a quarterback a little bit more. He's not double covered on every single snap. It's the different ACL to what he had a couple of years ago. However, he did snap this ACL in college, so you fear it could be a bit of a nasty one. Hopefully, he'll be back fighting fit for the start of next season, but it's a massive loss for us. You're 3-0. You're starting to think, actually, when we get some players back, you could make a good go of it, and then, one of your best players goes out, and it's just eyes on the trade block now, see if we want to bring anyone in. What I would say, Nick, I know you've got a bit of time, mate, you'll be watching. Have my ACL. I don't need it. I really don't. You can have the lot, mate. Oh. You can have a spare.
I didn't have you down to be so generous, actually.
More practically, let's get his leg up and he can come on the show. That's surely.
Put your feet up, lad. You don't need that.
Put your feet up. Get yourself on the Early Hours podcast. But yeah, no, it's such a shame. It's a big loss, and ultimately, yeah, we have rivalries, we have battles, we have jokes, and some of us turn up in Lions shirts, knowing you're amongst Packers fans, but. It's just devastating. He's so entertaining to watch. He's one of the top players at his position, and yeah, we want to watch the best players play. It's like when you see people like Joe Burrow go down, it's just gutting, isn't it? Because they bring the action they make Scott Hansen's life a lot easier, put it that way.
Yeah, well, look, some more breaking news this week as well. Najee Harris, he's out for the rest of the season as well with an Achilles. That's a massive blow for such an electric Chargers side this season. But finally, some better news in the grand scheme of things anyway. CeeDee Lamb, he's out for only 3 to 4 weeks, and that's a high ankle sprain. Is George Pickens now the go-to man in Dallas?
Probably. Saying that, though, I think it opens doors for Jake Ferguson. I really do. He had a really great game at the weekend, despite the loss to Chicago. He looked like a real go-to target on the under-outs and the sort of quick plays for Dak. But yeah, such a shame. Again, and we've just spoke about it, haven't we? Losing key players like that. And CD is so entertaining to watch. He is, he's one of the top receivers in the league. Can't say I'm too disappointed when he play the Packers this week. So, whilst I never wish injuries on people, it is kind of favourable timing for us. But yeah, it's gutting, isn't it? It's got to be Pickens. What do you think, Matt? Pickens going to get more targets? Right?
If he's going to pump it long, I think, to be honest with you, against the Packers, we saw it with Jared Goff. I think Dak's going to get eaten alive, if I'm honest. So,
is it the Javonte Williams show then, and then Edrin Cooper maybe doing what they did against Gibbs and Montgomery?
Possibly. He's got to be. They've got to try and run Williams. That's what they've tried to do anyway this season. I just don't see a way that, especially now they don't have the outlet of CD, whereas maybe you can get it over the top and let him run. I think that could be a real whitewash actually this week.
Well, here's hoping. But speedy recovery to all involved in that segment. Yeah, Mike Evans as well. He's just
don't forget Mike.
Announced. Yeah, well, he's been announced. He's not again missing the entire season, but just a massive blow across the board. Something's in the air. Well, look, enough of week 3. Let's get that curse out of the way and look ahead towards week 4. Loads of games coming up, as you can imagine, starting with Thursday night football against 2 fixtures that we may have already talked about earlier in the show, but the Seahawks visiting the Cardinals. It's a tough game for them without their star running back James Conner against a Seahawks side who scored 40 plus points at the weekend.
Yeah, I think, as we said, James Conner's a huge miss. I've got the Seahawks to win this one. Obviously, they smashed up the Saints last week. Sam Darnold played really well. Kenneth Walker played really well as well. I've just had a nice little ding-dong with a Seahawks fan on Twitter, so they're a lovely bunch. But yeah, I've got the Seahawks to win this one. I just think, like Al said, James Conner's that important. It's just going to be Trey McBride or bust if Marvin Harrison keeps dropping them balls. And I think the Seahawks are a pretty good side this year, so I've got them to win.
Just to go over to the other side of the ball on that one, I think we see an absolute disaster class from Kyler Murray this week. It screams of Kyler Murray panicking, interceptions, sacks, turnovers. I just think we'll see it all. It's one of those weeks.
Elsewhere in week 3, the Eagles, they're visiting the Buccaneers, which is another pretty big test for them. Back-to-back challenging games there for Jalen Hurts. Can he prove himself once again? And then the Chargers, they're visiting the New York Giants with a newly appointed QB at the helm in Jaxson Dart.
Big changes for the Big Blue. We were asking all week, to be fair, just trying to gauge from their sort of community what their thoughts were on it. Generally sort of mixed, but at the end of the day, look, he's under centre. Russ has been benched. It probably adds fuel to the fire around the sort of trade talk for Jameis Winston. He's probably firmly on the trade block. But yeah, they've got a gunslinger out of Ole Miss, and we know what happened the last time they drafted a QB out of Ole Miss. His name was Eli Manning, and he won them a Super Bowl.
The NFL would be nothing without superstitions at all either, so we'll hold on to that sort of stuff.
I'm super excited to see how he plays. I think Leak had a really bad game last time out, but has balled out against the Cowboys, although that is one of the worst passing defense in the league at the minute, the Cowboys. So, we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, bad news for them. I know we've talked about injuries a little bit already. A Tyrone Tracy shoulder injury, potentially putting him out for 2 to 4 weeks by the sounds of the reports. Leaves Scatterboo as RB1. He's an absolute knucklehead. He's a classic NFL, just hard-hitting NFL caliber running back. So that'll be interesting to watch. But I think it's super exciting. Throw him in.
Yeah, I mean, Scatterboo's absolute chaos, isn't he?
Yeah.
He just bounces around the big boys. I mean, how long can you last doing that? Personally, I think it's been a bit tough on Russ Wilson. I don't think he started too badly. For me, I think it looks like the Giants have gone 0-3. The head coaching guys are probably thinking we need to make a change here, buy us a few more games, and does it end up just being another blowout year for the Giants? Give Dart the experience, and for me, don't be surprised if we see a bit of a fire sale in New York as well. There are a couple of teams out there who could very much poach some of their players for some decent picks, and you mentioned Jameis Winston. What about Russ Wilson? Could he be on the block?
Russ Wilson, 100%.
Really interesting point. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We've been talking all week about how the Bengals could be a potential suitor for Winston, and actually he might get pipped by the QB2 ahead of him in New York. So yeah, wild.
It is crazy. It's harsh on Russ because, like you say, he started the season pretty well, but I think everyone can see it was inevitable, especially when you're trading up to get Jaxson Dart. But maybe a little bit earlier than you thought it was going to happen. But look, if the Giants need results, and like you say, they're 0-3, it's going to need to happen for them sooner rather than later. Looking elsewhere this weekend, the Packers, they're taking on America's team in Dallas, and they're looking for a bounce back victory for sure. And how about this one? Ravens at the Chiefs, a massive must-win game for either side. Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. It doesn't get much better than that one.
They don't stop dishing out these games, do they? It's been like non-stop. I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted. I just before because I know we're going to talk heavy on Chiefs, Ravens. How can we not? It's that not, granted I am a Packers fan. We're Packers fans, but regardless, Parsons returning back to the AT&T.
Massive.
to invite, to see that Cowboys Nation again. It's going to be super interesting. Will they boo him? How does it work? I don't know.
Do you think he's still on Jerry's Christmas card list?
He's just going to be out. I honestly could not tell you, but he's going to be out for a sack on Dak Prescott. He's going to be relishing the opportunity.
What's really interesting as well, when you get these sort of matchups, he knows how that O-line works. He's been with them for years, so he knows how to exploit them. That's exciting.
Very true.
Really exciting.
And on the flip side of the ball, we're going to have Kenny Clark, which is a really kind of weird one for us, rushing us in, the interior line. So, but yeah, Ravens Chiefs. Where do you start? I think Henry. It's got to be, hasn't it? Henry, and then probably.
I think we're going to say.
Well, yeah, I think there's questions on both sides. The fun thing is that one of those two teams is going to go 1-3.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. Exactly. I mean, I've said this last week. I've got the Ravens, but if they just keep throwing away the fourth quarter leads, and if any quarterback in the entire world ever knows how to win in a fourth quarter, it's Pat Mahomes. But I just don't think he's got the guys anymore. I think Lamar Jackson on his own can switch that game, and as long as Henry can keep the ball in those two hands and just go 100 yards, just don't drop the ball, mate, and they will be fine. Yeah,
and just look at that right tackle as well, Juwan Taylor. He's been struggling so far with the pass rush, so. I think Lamar gets out of the pocket. Unlike the Lions game, I do think he gets out of the pocket. He causes mischief. How many times can Henry fumble? Has he used all his fumble tokens up? Hopefully.
I hope he's got a few more now. He's with Goody.
maybe he has.
He's with me in my other league.
That'd be your luck, wouldn't it, going for Tua? But never mind.
So that's all part of the fun. I actually don't know what to call that, if I'm being honest. I'd like to say the Ravens have got a better form this season, but obviously when you go to Arrowhead and the stealth bombers come over you, anything can happen. So a must-watch game for sure.
It's the fact it's a conference game as well. It's so pivotal. The Bills will be sitting with their feet up. Hopefully they've got a win over the Saints. That should be, God, if the Seahawks can do what they did, God knows what Josh Allen's about to do to them. But and James Cook. But yeah, hopefully the Bills will have their feet up. He'll be resting his little bruised nose, and he'll just be watching and waiting for it to all unfold. It's a win-win.
And lastly, a really exciting game, especially for everyone here at the early hours and everyone in the UK. It's the Vikings at the Steelers. The Steelers, the designated home team at Croke Park in Dublin. By the time you're watching this episode, I'll be on the ground in Dublin myself, soaking it all up. And I couldn't be more excited. So remember just to check out our socials for some on-the-ground content from me. But that is so exciting to see some football at a normal time for once, and back over this side of the Atlantic for sure. Rounding out the episode then, just before we end, I'd love to get your takes. We've just talked about some must-watch games this weekend, but who do you think is going to be like your team of the week? Who's going to perform the best or surprise you the most? For me, Oliver, you touched upon it briefly in that last segment. It's got to be Josh Allen and the Bills, exactly for the reasons you said. If the Seahawks are putting 44 points past the Saints, God help them when Josh Allen comes to town. Really, I do think that could be messy if the Saints don't get their ideas up.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think it's going to be pretty messy for Kellen Moore and his black and gold army. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets Dolphins. The return of Justin Fields looks like he could play this week, which is good. I think it's just run game versus run game. Devon Achane versus Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. And I should say Ollie Gordon as well, behind Achane as RB2. But yeah, I think it's a super interesting one. It's arguably, going into the season, you probably would have said that the Jets would have been fighting the Patriots in that division for sort of third spot. But I really do believe that the Dolphins and the Jets are fighting it out for second or third in that division.
They are,
so.
and look, I love saying this. Someone's O has got to go. Both of those teams 0-3.
Yeah, terrible. It's do or die, exactly. So I'm excited for that one. I'm going to go with the Jets.
And just to touch on Bill Saints, that could be a cricket score. Absolute cricket score. I've gone a bit more left field. Do you know what? I'm not 100% convinced the team that I'm going to mention is going to win. However, I'm going to go with the Browns. I think the Browns will do to the Lions very much what they did to the Packers last weekend. Myles Garrett and his crew will get at Jared Goff like the Packers did in week 1, and they won't know what's hit them. The only thing that stops the Browns from winning is the Browns, because going forward, they are atrocious. But I think because, the Packers love to run the ball, Josh Jacobs, they just couldn't get it going. Same as the Lions. And does Goff have enough time to get that ball to St. Brown and his crew? watch
We
out
know
for
what
that
it's
one.
like, don't we? We know what it's like against the blitz. I think that's such a good shout from you, by the way. Love that, and I love that. It's just these kind of games are what catches out, aren't they? On red zone, and you go, "Blimey, what?" Like last weekend, like what are the Browns doing here? What are they eating in the canteen? Like, but yeah, it's. I'd love to see if that defense balls out again. I'd love to see them give Dylan Gabriel a go on offense. I'd love it. Absolutely.
Don't be surprised to see the Lions edge it.
Yeah.
But I think it's competitive. I think it's a good game, actually. Whereas on paper, you'd say, Browns whitewash. It's not going to be. It might be. We'll come back on Monday and they'll have smashed them to bits. But for now, competitive.
Yeah, well, Myles Garrett, he's been eating his demon flakes at breakfast.
That boy.
He's like he literally could be part of the new Avengers. That's how strong he is.
He stopped the conversation at the weekend. There's no debate who the best in the league is. It's not even close.
It's the Packers tackle after getting clean beaten, screaming, Jordan, run.
What's crazy, and like what I'd love to know is, because Myles Garrett was mic'd up for that game, I'd love to see if they just give him an extra 5 or 10% mentally, a bit of a placebo effect. Say, I'm mic'd up this week. I'm gonna really go for it, because him running through our O-line and hearing Jordan run off a hot mic is so funny, because that's all you can do. Once Myles Garrett's through, that's it. All you can do is shout and scream and just try and wave.
Just get rid of the ball as soon as.
It's just seeing how quick he slammed that ball into the ground after.
So
after
good. I'm really excited to
it's
watch Game Day when it drops on Wednesday. Well, look, that's all we've got time for on this episode of the Early Hours podcast. Look, just a reminder, soak it up, guys. We've got football kicking off in the middle of the afternoon for the next 5 weeks. That is so exciting. And I'll be on the ground in Dublin at Crow Park. If anybody is at that game as well, hit me up on socials. I'll be sure to say hello as well. But loads of games to watch, so much to look forward to, and we'll see you on Monday.